Thanks for joining us today. Today, what we want to do is mentioned is a recap of all of the stuff that we announced at Build, as well as I want to talk a bit about app templates. We also announced them at Build, but they're cool enough that I think I want to call them out and talk a little bit more about them specifically. So we like to cover things like what's new and how you can use it. We bring the product team and some developers on to talk and give some deeper dives into what's going on. And then we always leave a good amount of time towards the end for Q&A. We can ask questions across any of the team's developer topics. If the speaker doesn't know an answer, they should follow up with you in one way or another to get you the answer that you need. Okay, a little bit about me. I am Andrew Clear. I'm a PM on the team's platform team. In particular, I'm responsible for developer content. So all things developer content and sample apps and demo apps and the dev docs and all of that goodness. You can always tweet at me at aclear16. And if you have questions about teams, I'm more than happy to respond on Twitter. You can also reach out to us by opening an issue against our document library. And we also have a feedback page in our developer documentation that talks about other ways to get a hold of us. Without further ado, what's new for developers? So we've GA'd and or dev previewed and or brought out quite a bit of stuff over the last month and a half. So first, and we'll double click into a lot of these. So I'll go through this pretty quick. Message actions is is a big thing that came out from recently. We announced it in preview. If you were with us last month, we talked about it. It was in preview. Now it's GA. It's available for everyone. Smart link handling, or also known as link unfurling. We've also GA'd that. Bots and group chats is coming really soon. I was hoping to be able to say GA, but it's not quite. But it will be days, not weeks, for that one. As well as responding to a bot message from a task module. Triggered by a messaging extension, which is kind of confusing, but we'll double click into that as well. We also talked about it last week. If you want to deep dive into any of the message extension stuff I'm going to talk about today, I recommend you watch the video from last month's community call. You can find it on our blog, and there's a deep dive into all of the messaging extension goodness that's been going on. Messaging extensions are now available on mobile platforms, so you should be able to find them and access them from your app tray from when you're in a message from down at the bottom. We've also revved the manifest version, so we're up to manifest version 1.5 now. 1.4 didn't live very long. We expect 1.5 to live quite a bit longer and last a little bit longer before we have to rev it again. As part of the move to manifest version 1.5, we've added the ability to localize the strings in your app manifest. I'll talk more about this one right now since I don't have a slide for it. So what that means is you have the ability to provide translations for any end user facing strings that exist in your manifest file. So things like your app name or your bot command list. You can add a file for as many languages as you want, reference it from your app manifest, and when based on the team's client language settings, those localizations will be displayed to the end user. So what that means is, if you localize to French, for example, from your bot commands with someone with a client whose language is set to French, the bot command list that they see will be in French. So it's pretty cool. We do some cool stuff where if you define, say, a parent level language, like you define just FR for French, but their client is set to a dialect of French, like French Canadian, for example, we will display the parent language instead of not displaying their language at all. So it works pretty good. And if you're interested in localization, I highly suggest you check it out. App templates, we'll talk a lot about those towards the end of today's thing. And we also have some new training videos available on YouTube that I'll give you a link for towards the end of today's session, as well as an embed to the ability to embed a share to teams button on your website, and that's currently in dev preview. And when we say dev preview, this is really dev preview. You have to be very specific about how it will work, but you can preview the functionality and see how it will work. We're really excited about this. It adds the ability to add a button to any website that you control that will allow someone to authenticate against teams, and then once they've authenticated, they can pick from a list of teams and channels, and they can insert a message with a link to your web page directly into a channel. So it's pretty cool functionality. We're really excited about it. So teams at Build 2019. We announced quite a bit of stuff, and we're really excited. One of the things that I really want to stress throughout this is messaging extensions have come a long way with the GA of starting with about a month and a half ago, we GA'd message actions, the ability to trigger a task module from a message extension. And with the set of functionality that we've provided now underneath the messaging extension umbrella, I really do think it is one of the core app capabilities that you could build. It's very interactive. It's highly intuitive for users. You don't have to do, worry about making your bot work really well in all scenarios and dealing with natural language processing, all that kind of stuff. It gives you a very clean UI to interact with your users. So I can't stress this enough. I think messaging extensions should be front of mind when you're thinking about building new applications or extending functionality in your existing application on the Teams platform. You can really do a lot with messaging extensions now. Okay, so building richer apps. So we've been really working on messaging extensions and really with the idea of the ability to fire messaging extensions from multiple places, whether that's the compose box where you're typing your message, or the command box, the command bar from up on top, and that we'll talk about in messaging actions. And you have the ability now to collect information from users using task modules to scope a conversation and collect interesting information without guiding them to a multi-stage bot. If you've ever dealt with bot dialogues and multi-stage bots and dealing with, well, what if the user jumps out of my command chain and go and do something else, it can be kind of a nightmare. This gives you a much easier way to collect more than one piece of information at a time from your users. We've also added the ability to fire these things off from a message itself. And this is really powerful. Oftentimes, messages in Teams are tied directly to some action that needs to be taken in a different system, right? It could be opening a ticket in Jira or adding a work item in Azure DevOps, or adding a task in Planner. But quite regularly, you find the need to do something based on a message in some external system. With message actions, you have the ability to fire a message extension directly from the message, and your bot controlling your message extension will get the metadata of the entire message thread, which allows you to process that and do whatever you need to do with it. Okay, smart link unfurling. We talked about this one last month as well, but to just do a quick recap, link unfurling allows you to monitor a domain, and when someone pastes a URL into the compose box from a domain that you are monitoring or that you have registered, you can insert an adaptive card into the message box. This one's interesting because it also gives the user to expand and collapse. So you see in the first screenshot with the image that's sort of the normal URL preview that you get. That's based on the metadata of the website of the URL that you're pasting in there. But then the user has the ability to expand that into a full card, and with that card, you can always provide buttons and allow them to take actions directly from the allow actions to be taken from the card that gets inserted in the command box. So bots, increasing the reach of bots, the ability to use bots across one-on-one discussions, group chats, and in meeting chats. You can now pull bots into any of these contexts. Well, not quite. It's almost GA. It's currently in preview, but it's not. You can't quite pull them in yet. There's a lot. someone else's. But yeah, so you can pull, if you want to take a poll in a group chat, if you want to pull your bot into a group chat for meeting follow-ups and that kind of stuff, it's pretty easy to do now. Bots in group chats work very similar to the way that they work in channel conversations. They get almost the exact same events. It takes very little or almost no effort really to add this group chat scope to an existing channel bot. It'll respond to, add member events and member remove events and all of those kinds of things. It's really quick, it's really easy. We've made it so that the functionality is just kind of the same, so you don't really have to change anything. Just add the scope group chat to your bot in your app manifest, and it will work. Combining actions and bot interactions. This is sort of the kind of a bridge between bots and messaging extensions, where you can, from the compose box, your messaging extension fires a task module, which allows you to collect information, and then your task module gives a preview of the message that the bot will send into the chat. Once the user clicks send on this, it will send the message, the bot will send the message into the chat, not the user. So this is really good for if you've ever had a bot that had some sort of setup set steps and you used it in a channel. Everyone would always get stuck seeing all of the setup steps, which was kind of frustrating because it added a lot of spam to the channel. This allows you to do those setup steps off the side, configure whatever needs to be configured, collect the information that needs to be collected, and then have the bot start a conversation that people can then interact with, either interact through their adaptive card or respond to the bot, or however they need to interact with the bot at that point. But it's a much cleaner way of configuring the initial message that a bot sends to the channel. So we're going to jump into just a little deeper dive into how you configure all of these things using your app manifest. Some of these things aren't quite in App Studio yet, so you may need to manually manipulate your manifest in order to light up all of this functionality. So that's why we want to show a little bit of how you would manually manipulate your manifest to do this. So just a quick recap of the manifest, right? You've got these sort of the core objects in your manifest that you need to configure. A lot of what we've been talking about is message extensions, which of course in the manifest is still called compose extensions for backwards compatibility reasons. You'll oftentimes hear us Teams folks talk about compose extensions instead of message extensions. Sorry about that. But we really wanted to, if you've ever been curious, we hope that the functionality that we've provided on top of that, this capability makes it a little bit clearer why we've renamed them from compose extensions to message extensions, because they are much more than just the compose message box now. They're really across messaging in general inside of Teams. But to go a little bit further, here's an example of a compose extension node. And you'll see we've added the context parameter to your message extension. The default value for this is compose and command box, which is the compose message area where you type your message at the bottom, and the command box at the top where you can do search commands and at users and search and that kind of stuff. So context being equal to message means that that's gonna make it so that it fires from the more actions menu of a message, from the overflow menu of any message. Right, the title is the title that shows up there. And that fires off an invoke command to your bot, which will then return something like a task module with an adaptive card or a web view, or using your parameters with a static or with a parameter list, so that you don't even have to code even that. That's all set up by setting the type to action and setting fetch task to true. That'll allow it to pull in the adaptive card. Just some of the options for collecting inputs from the user via a task module and a messaging extension. So you have sort of the no-code solution, which is just the statically defined list of parameters that's in the manifest. This will give you whatever parameters you provide in there will render something like this, and then you don't even have to code up an adaptive card or anything like that. Sort of the in-between option, the low-code option, is using an adaptive card. So you can create an adaptive card and have your bot pass that back as the task module itself. Or if you need to go all the way to controlling everything and making sure that you want to add some more advanced functionality, like, for example, the Poly has the little add option button. You can't do that with an adaptive card. So you can embed a web view inside the task module so that you have complete control of what's displayed. So smart link handling or link unfurling, or how that works. Again, under the compose extension node, you add the message handlers object or array of objects, where you inside there you add an object type link, and you add a domain value, which is the domain that you want to fire your message extension from. So basically, what this one says is anytime someone posts a something.lucidchart.com link into the compose box, call my messaging extension and pass that URL, and allow me to process that and create a card that I can then insert back into the chat. Any domain that you want to monitor, you also have to add to your valid domains list. So they need to be in both places. But this is pretty powerful. One note on this: if you are going to submit an app to the App Store where you are using smart link handling, you must own the domain that you are monitoring. You can't just be like, I'm going to monitor google.com. You have to actually own the domain, or have a very valid reason to monitor that domain. And that will be part of your app validation process as you go through the submission to the App Store. So just keep that in mind if you're going to go down this road, that you do need to have ownership of some sort of the domains that you're monitoring. For your own app purposes, for your own internal app purposes, if you're going to deploy to your own organization app store, or just sideload into a team directly, obviously you can monitor whichever links that you want. Just an example of the flow of how this all works and sort of what's involved. When the user fires off your message extension, it initiates the action and gets sent to the bot. The bot constructs the modal dialog, which is going to be displayed back to the user, the task module. That gets sent back to the user. The user then fills it out and collects all of the information that's necessary to get sent. That gets sent back to your bot. Your bot passes that off to whatever service it is that's going to process that information and do something with it. Once that comes back to the bot, and then the bot gives the user a preview of the message that's going to be sent. And this is the part that was out of order, but gives the bot a preview of the message that's going to be sent to the end user. The user can then confirm the message or edit it. This is kind of nice if they're like, oh, I entered the wrong parameters or whatever. You can go back and edit and change. Again, if your implementation gives them the option to do so, you don't have to give them the ability to go back and edit, but you can. And once they've confirmed it, then Teams adds the card to the message. Okay, so changing tracks a bit. One of the things that we are very excited to announce that is coming very soon is the ability to do SSO for simplified login experience for the users. What this means is that in Azure Active Directory, you will be able to register your Microsoft Teams app IDs as a pre-authorized application. And once you have done that, it will greatly reduce the number of times people have to log into your app. If they're already logged in, they're already logged in. It'll be Azure Active Directory aware, and everything will just kind of work. When you go, so once you've registered your Teams app ID, when you go to install the app, on install, it will say, hey, hook these two things together. And once you do, users will no longer be prompted if they are already logged into your Azure Active Directory. They won't be prompted to log in again when they hit something that's in your app that uses the same Active Directory. So we're really excited about this. It should greatly reduce the friction of repeated logins and the frustration of going from one tab to another tab, and you're authenticating against the same Azure Active Directory endpoint, and you have to log in twice. That can be very frustrating. This should hopefully alleviate that in instances where you've implemented this. It should be should also simplify just the authentication flow, which can be difficult to manage in general. But that's coming soon. That's not GA yet. We hope to have that out here directly. Quick overview of Graph and what's been going on with Graph. So Graph, if you've never used, well, hopefully most of you have used Graph, but we've been working hard to increase the footprint of Graph in Teams and try to get a lot of the beta endpoints out that have been kind of sitting in beta for a while, and we want to really get a push to start getting those into GA. And as we move them into GA, if you weren't aware, there actually is an SDK for the non-beta endpoints for Graph. So hopefully that will make working with Graph even easier inside your applications, particularly if you're in the C# world, where serializing and deserializing JSON can kind of be a pain. Yeah, so already available is the sort of the team lifecycle automation stuff. Permissions, upgrading and installing apps using the team templates. If you weren't aware, we actually have templates for creating teams. So there are like 10 or 15 of them, I think, maybe not that many, but templates for certain kinds of groups of people that you might want to create a team for, and it will spin up various resources based on the type of team. Deep linking to a channel, and if you're a GCC High or a DoD customer, there are a lot of APIs that are available in those infrastructures now. Sending and reading information, reading one-to-one and group chat messages, and posting replies to channels. And we've also started to add APIs for first-line workers. If you use or work with someone who uses first-line workers, we're publishing APIs for creating and manipulating shifts and connecting shifts to external applications, so that your shifts app and your first-line workers team tenant can sort of use its scheduling of record as your normal scheduling system, and then your shifts app can use that as its system of record, so that you don't have to update everyone's shifts in 2 different places. That's really cool. So if you're a first-line worker customer, or you work with first-line worker customers, we're really excited about this. It should make it way more useful for folks if you're using shifts. Okay, so one of the other areas of focus that we've had over the last few months, well, actually the last year, is reaching across devices. We still are committed to providing the same functionality that is available on Teams, where it makes sense, on both iOS and Android platforms. And we really want to make sure that we're reaching Teams users wherever we are, and we continue to expand and grow on the functionality of the Teams apps on both the iOS and Android platforms. And that means not just the core Teams functionality, but that means the platform functionality and the apps that you all are building, and as well as the store apps that you might install. We want to make sure that those work across all of your stuff. So you could already use bots in the app, and we're very happy to announce that messaging extensions are now available on iOS and Android, and tabs are coming soon-ish. They also kind of work. Some of them work, some of them don't work. We're really working on trying to make sure that the experience for tabs stays consistent and clean, but we expect that to be fully compatible soon. So tabs, the ability to have tabs, both personal and group tabs, embedded inside the Teams client or inside the Teams app, rather than sending you off to a web page. So that should be coming soon. Yep. And again, we are fully committed to bringing the entire platform to the mobile apps, and we want your apps to work just as well on mobile as they do on the desktop. So that's full support of the Tab SDK, all the manifest capabilities. Authentication needs to work. You should be able to build an app for Teams and not have to worry about building apps for Teams on the desktop or Teams on mobile. Regardless, it should work across all content. All right. Quick touch on some of the admin tools that we have both released and are upcoming. So basically, app setup policies, those are available right now. This is the ability for you to customize the which apps are pinned to the app bar for individual users or for groups of users. You can say these users get these apps, those users get those apps. App permission policies are coming soon. This will allow you to org-wide or specific users block or allow specific apps and make it so much more granular policies around apps. So one of the things that we've ran into is ITs say, hey, we're going to just disable all apps. Well, we want to give you the ability to control that and work with so that your apps can be the apps that you need can be enabled. I'll talk a bit more about app certification here in a bit and how you can be a little bit more knowledgeable of what each app is doing. And we're also going to give, along those same lines, more granular side-loading permissions. So the ability to say which users can upload custom apps, which can't, and how more granular permissions around side-loading of apps. All right. And so along those same sort of lines, we are announcing our app certification program. So the point of this is we were trying to help both from the IT side. We want to allow them to understand what the app is doing, understand its data handling, its security, and what compliance it meets, and all of that sort of stuff. And from the developer side, we really want to accelerate adoption. We want to give them a place. If you publish your app to the App Store, we want to reduce the barriers of entry for you into new organizations. So hopefully expedite the process of certifying apps for people who do that. So the idea is this is a single location for admins to go. We will help you complete a questionnaire and an audit of your app. And we will compile that information and put it into a nice format available for IT pros. So if you publish an app to the App Store, you will have the opportunity to be involved in this program, which will allow your potential customers much more information into what your app is actually doing, and hopefully make it much easier for them to onboard your app. Yep. So we're piloting it right now, but it's we expect this to grow rapidly. There's been a lot of demand for this from IT admins, and we really want to reduce the fear of apps. There's a lot of confusion around what can apps do, what can they not do, how powerful are they, should I turn them on, should I turn them off. We really want to reduce that and be more transparent about what it is that third-party apps that you install in your organization are doing. And last but not least, if you are publishing apps to the App Store, we are moving to the Partner Center. We are really excited about this as the sort of place where you submit your app for approval, and you can see all of your apps. You can manage them. You can submit updates for them. And we really want to streamline. We are streamlining the approval process. All your approval and rejection notes will be in a single place, and it will be significantly faster to submit apps to the App Store. This is also in preparation for monetization of your apps. That is charging through our store app for your apps published to third-party stores. More information will be coming on that over the following months. But we're really excited about the move to Partner Center. It's going to allow us to do a lot more things in the future. All right, I'm going to check and see if there were any questions that I missed. So let me jump over to the chat window real quick. See. Okay. Nope. Looks like no questions yet. Okay. So the last major topic that I want to talk about today is Teams app templates. And so what these are is they are open source solutions that we have built or we have worked with the community to build. But we have said, hey, these are ready to install apps. Here is the code. Here are the deployment steps for deploying any particular app template to your Azure instance or to your whatever instance. The infrastructure is all there. Everything that you need to build and deploy this app in your own organization. So you can kind of think of it as an intermediate step between third-party apps and fully custom apps. We're now providing app templates that allow you to grab somebody else's code that we've said, hey, this is good. This solves this kind of problem. Here's the deployment steps. Follow the deployment steps and side load it or put it in your own team, your own organization's app store. And you have the ability to customize it however you meet your needs. You can always fork the repo or pull it down and completely separate it from Git. But I think they are incredibly powerful. They're powerful because they're very easy to install and get started. So the plug and play is awesome. But more importantly for this audience, they are true production ready samples or examples of applications that you can use as for inspiration, that you can use as sort of a reference point for how all of this stuff should work. We have basically said these are apps, and these apps are designed and built in the way that we think about designing and building apps. From end to end, these are production ready apps that you can have the whole code for. So really excited about these. I think these are going to be super powerful and help increase just sort of the knowledge of good app design in the community at large. To double click into, so right now what we have is, so there's a custom stickers app, which is a messaging extension that allows you to create and upload your own custom stickers that you can then use and insert into Teams wherever you install the messaging extension. This is a great example of a messaging extension application in general. So if you're interested in building awesome messaging extensions, this is a great thing to go look at to see how we think messaging extensions should be built. It also uses an Azure function for the bot. So it's a V4 bot backed by an Azure function. So it uses some pretty cutting edge capabilities. If you're interested in checking out, our V4 SDKs are in beta, so there's not a lot of documentation on them yet. If you're interested in learning more, this is a great place to go to learn more about them. We also have the Icebreaker bot, which is a really powerful bot that uses a lot of capabilities, different capabilities, task modules, and some complex bot interactions, which will basically once a week randomly pair up two members of a team and suggest meeting times for them to say, hey, why don't you guys go out for coffee, right? It's the idea is it's an icebreaker product. The idea is if you've got a large team and not everybody's met everybody before, once a week it pairs up two random team members and says, hey, here's a good time for you guys to meet. Why don't you meet for 15 minutes, go meet each other. Members of the team will have the ability to opt out or opt back into the matching. So it's kind of social and organic. It's a really cool bot. We actually use it in the Teams team since we've grown pretty fast and not everybody knows everybody. And it's pretty cool to just go meet somebody new all the time. Coming soon, we're going to have a celebrations bot, which will help keep track of birthdays and anniversaries and other recurring events and give notifications in the right place and help the team celebrate those. A list search application, which is a messaging extension that allows you to find items from a SharePoint list and share them inside Teams with more information about the item itself so that you don't have to click out of Teams to go to the SharePoint list item and see it over there. A workflow approval app that will demonstrate, hey, if you need lightweight workflow approval, this is not demonstrate, will enable you to do lightweight workflow approval directly from within Teams. And then a company communicator app that is sort of a announcement app that you would give access to a limited set of users inside your organization, like HR or other senior level management or team leads, and give them the ability to push out content or announcements or whoever you need to scheduled across multiple teams or either at the team level or send messages to individuals. So yeah, app templates. I think they're awesome, both as in and of themselves. They're very useful, and we're going to continue to push out as many as we can. So they're useful in their own right, and they're also incredibly useful as a learning tool for you to go see interesting ways that we think you can build Teams apps. If you have ideas for things that you would like to be seen built as an app template. If you would like to get involved and push code, they're open source. They're available on GitHub. We welcome submissions from the community. If you want to see them changed or you want to see new ones added, please reach out to us and let us know. We really want to start. The long-term idea for this is to be able to showcase awesome apps that people have built that they're willing to open source. So we think this is going to be cool way to really increase knowledge in the community. Okay, with that, we have a new landing page for all Teams developer content. So it's an index across all of our developer content, from the documentation libraries to the SDKs to app templates to samples across everything. So if you remember anything, remember aka.ms/teamsdev. That will get you to sort of the core. And I'm just going to. So from here, you have the ability to, again, the link is aka.ms/teamsdev. You have the ability to jump around in the documentation, including the graph documentation, as well as a link over to the admin documentation. I mentioned the new YouTube videos that we've published. That's a series of, I think, 8 YouTube videos that are deeper dives into various topics. They're available. The link to that channel is available here, as well as our other training modules that we have available on GitHub. We have links to our developer blog, a link to the invite to these community calls, a link to our feedback and support page. Over on the samples and templates tab, we've got samples and demo apps and templates. And we're going to try to start being a little bit more specific when we talk about samples and demo apps versus app templates. So we really want to enforce a hierarchy across these things. So a sample is going to be a simpler example of a single feature, not necessarily production-ready code. Demo apps are the interactions across multiple features, and app templates, like I talked about, are production-worthy, ready to use. They come with scripts for installing the necessary infrastructure pieces to make them all work. And over on the last tab, we have, last but not least, our SDKs and tools. So here you can find links to the GitHub repositories and the packages for all of our SDKs, including the beta v4 SDKs, which, by the way, they are the last push of the beta SDKs. They're fairly stable right now. We're going through final testing and getting samples and documentation written for them. But if you wanted to start playing with them, I believe that they are fairly stable. You can't sign off on them 100% and say use them in production, but they should be fairly stable and good to go. We also have links to App Studio and documentation for App Studio, as well as a deep link to install App Studio in Teams, and the UMN generator for Microsoft Teams. If you've never used this, if you code in Node and you haven't checked out this UMN generator, I highly recommend it. Big shout out to Victor for putting this together and maintaining this. This thing is awesome. It will greatly accelerate scaffolding out any new Teams apps that you're building. So if you code in Node and you are building Teams apps, I can't recommend this enough. It's a great tool to help you build Teams apps. Yeah. So with that, questions. Again, remember, aka.ms/teamsdev gets you an index of all Teams content, Teams developer content. If you have time to take a survey, we would love you to complete our survey at Teams Doc Feedback, so aka.ms/Teams Doc Feedback. If you wanted to do that, that'd be great. We're always looking for feedback from the community. And this survey is around developer experience and developer tooling, as well as developer content. If you're interested in reading sort of the blog post version of the stuff that I covered today, you can find that at aka.ms/teamsbuild. Or sorry, teams@build. And with that, I'll open it up for any questions anybody might have.
Hi, this is Umesh. I have a question regarding in terms of insights, like the custom insights on the teams, active teams, or how many active teams are there. Do you have any information on that sort which can help us to kind of track the adoption?
Sorry, I don't directly. That would be more of an IT pro question. If you send me, can you post that question in chat? And I will have someone follow up who can answer that more fully.
I am actually not having an option to chat here, but I'm not sure if that's on my organization, but I'll probably post it. Otherwise, yeah.
So you can if you can tweet at me at aclear16, I can get your question answered.
I'll
Or
do,
you can
yeah,
open
I'll
an
do that.
issue on the IT Pro docs. If you open a GitHub issue on there, they will definitely follow up with you.
Sure. Thank you, Andrew.
Does anyone else have any other questions?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. So you showed us a few examples of the messaging integration in terms of bots. Is there an initiative, or where are we with having the same for call and voice? And I'm thinking of the use cases of being able at least to react to an incoming call and have some sort of application that can interact with the call itself. Is there anything happening in the background that we are not aware of, or where are we with that? Or is
so for calling in meetings, we have beta graph endpoints and beta function, or sorry, dev preview functionality on the team side, and that's all we can really announce right now. So if you haven't checked it out, the docs are available both on the graph side and on the team's developer side, and that's sort of all that's there. Have you had a chance to look through those?
Yes, but basically there we cannot really interact with the application itself, so we can handle the calls and we can reach the agent or reach the user with a call, but on the application side there is no way to interact as we see. So basically we are thinking of an application that is a native Teams application, but is doing something that relates to the call itself. And similarly, like the examples you showed, when there is someone sending a message and we are reacting to that one, it is more just to react to a call action instead. And we cannot see that happen through this. This is just controlling the call itself on the beta graph API that we see.
Yeah, and that's kind of where we're at. If you open, if you would like to learn more about that, I highly recommend opening an issue against those pages, and I can put you. I monitor those issues, and I can loop into the conversation the calling and meeting folks. It's pretty specific functionality, and they might be able to share more information about the roadmap, but I'm unaware of what's shareable, so I can't really expand on that any further than what's already out there.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, I wanted to know if there was some Visual Studio templates to do some Teams app, or is there only the GitHub samples?
So right now we do not have Visual Studio templates for building Teams apps. It's definitely been a topic of conversation and something that we're exploring and are definitely considering building, but we do not have any yet. The recommendation right now is start with one of the GitHub samples if you want to scaffold something out on the C# side, or on the Node side, use the Yeoman generator to scaffold out your initial project. But it is definitely an area that we're exploring, and I will take your interest in that back to the powers that be and see if we can push that a little bit further. Something I'm really excited about, and I hope we can do in the future.
Okay, and just to be sure, the sample on the GitHub repositories are only for ASP.NET MVC5, right? There is no .NET Core sample right now. It's in preview, or?
So the .NET for bots, the .NET. Well, so it's kind of a multi-layered thing. So our Teams Bot Builder SDK is what's in beta. So that's what's in beta. If you don't need to use the Bot Builder SDK, you don't need any of the functionality. Well, technically you can just use the REST endpoints and pass around JSON to achieve the same thing. So there's nothing directly stopping you from using an ASP.NET Core application as the service that provides context into Teams. If you need a sample to get started, the beta the beta.NET Teams Bot Builder before SDK has a couple sample apps inside there that you can use to get started. You can also check out the stickers app template that I just talked about. That stickers app template uses, I'm almost positive there's a .NET Core application in there, but it also uses an Azure function. I'm not really sure how all of those things relate in there. I didn't do the architecture on that one, so I'm not sure. But definitely inside the beta package, there's a sample app in there. If you can use that to get started. If you don't need the Teams Bot Builder SDK, then that's the only thing that's inside there that's beta. The rest of that is not beta.
Okay, thank you very much.
So that's about it. If I pull, if anybody needs to get in touch with us, the feedback page in our doc will always point you in the right direction of how to get a hold of us. So if you have any questions or you need to raise anything else, we monitor every way of talking to us in here. We actively monitor, and someone will follow up with you and get your question answered. So please feel free to reach out to us. We love feedback from the community. And if you are interested in getting involved with app templates or contributing to any of our open source repositories or our sample apps or anything like that, please reach out either to me directly on Twitter. I'm at aclear16, or raise it. Probably the best way to do that would be to send an email to this developer support alias, and we'll plug you in with the right folks and help you get started contributing.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and we will see you next month.